right. Well, good afternoon. We are having a little bit of trouble getting going here. I think we've had some miscommunication, but we're getting everything together, and I'm going to bring on our friend. I'm going to bring on our friend Mary. How are you, Mary?
Good afternoon. I'm great. How are you?
Just fine. I just got a notice from John Boy. He says there's a protest going on right now at Shawnee schools. Do you know anything about that?
I do know a bit about it. There was an incident in a classroom that is reportedly involving a sexualized action. I don't have many more details, so I'm hesitant to say anything about that. But I think parents are pretty upset with Shawnee Public Schools right now in something that happened in the classroom.
So let me just ask you this. I think I read about that in one of our, since we communicate fairly regularly, I think I read about this, and it was a student performing an autoerotic function to porn in a classroom. Is that correct?
That's what was reported to me. I have not verified that. I think this
Okay.
is one of those stories that is happening as we speak, and
Okay.
that parents there are reacting as we speak to a lack of action.
Okay.
And that's interesting. I didn't know there was a protest. Thank you to whoever just posted that
Yeah, that was
comment.
John Boy, who is
Excellent.
one of Roberta's friends from the area. And Roberta should be on here in just a little bit. And some of the Moms for Liberty are going to be on here in just a second. I'm just not sure who and what we're having. When you do something quickly. Hold on. Our friend John says they have videos of it. Where?
Yeah.
Where? And then here's Roberta. So I'm going to pull Roberta in. So Roberta, have you seen your friend John has been telling us about this protest? So what do you know about that? Let's hit that before we hit the other issue.
Uh-oh. Can't hear you.
You're muted. You're not muted. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
That's okay.
It'll happen. It'll work its way out. But Roberta knows what's going on. So as soon as we can get her to, because I don't read lips that well, Roberta.
Sign language.
I don't do sign language. I wish I kind of did. Uh-oh. That's okay. We'll wait on you. But there is John says they have videos of the boy who is doing this, and that Roberta is actually speechless because it's so upsetting.
Yes, I can imagine as a parent, it's very upsetting that
I'm just curious, why does it seem to appear that there is nothing being done about this?
Shawnee schools have a history. They continue to be in a lawsuit right now that has not been settled related to their former basketball coach. They lost a superintendent to accusations of sexual misconduct. And now it seems, I don't know, this could be a supervision issue. This could be, honestly, not verified yet, but it sounds like John knows more.
I don't know. He may comment again. Roberta, are we still at a loss for your audio?
She may need to drop and come back on.
Yeah, why don't we try that if you can hear us? Because I think she's frozen. No, she's not frozen. She's working on it. Okay. I did get that. I was pretty excited. We both got that. All right. So let's start while Roberta's getting on here until we get anything more from John. But yes, that's a real problem. So we all know who are on here so far. I'm sure everybody knows that three of the Oklahoma State Department of Education board members, so the state board members, we're not talking about local board members, were fired. And I'm going to just pull in my, I'm going to just share my screen a second here. Okay, here's my screen. This is an article that I wrote on my on the Rope Report right after this happened. So I believe that this was February 12th.
Yep.
And so we've seen the tweet from in the social media. I believe Oklahoma's education infrastructure has fallen prey to needless political drama. I'm shaking up the State Board of Education to keep pursuing our top 10 agenda, because we always get rid of good people to pursue a top 10 agenda. That's, you know, I mean, who wouldn't do that, right?
Strong point.
Yes.
And we always get rid of 3 really good people that he appointed himself.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Okay, so I basically said Republican Governor Stitt sides with Democrats to keep the education status quo by firing state education board members engaged in protecting Oklahoma kids. And then I just kind of talked a little bit about the people who were on the board, or who had been appointed to the board. And so this was this is Chris Vandenhende, who runs Southwest Fuel Systems LLC and Mint Turbines LLC.
Correct.
And you're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. And I wanted to point out that I did get on Subsidy Tracker. This particular individual has received $100,000 in training reimbursements from you and me. So
exactly, which means that in his for-profit company, Mint Turbines, we all paid $100,000 for his people to be trained. And
correct.
Then you also point out that there's a $2 million sum.
Yes, he had a $2 million federal loan from the Export Bank. And that's, you and I know about the Export Bank, but that's not a topic that people just go, oh, yes, I know about the Export Bank, you know, blah, blah, blah. But let's just say there have been many, many, many conservatives, that's probably all, because they don't really fight this issue for some reason, who have tried to put the kibosh on the Export Bank for years, because it's really a glorified money laundering scheme among all kinds of things. So it's a money laundering scheme of, again, our tax dollars, kind of similar to USAID, except the Export Bank isn't a nonprofit company. So this is a bad, and Julia says, what a racket. It is a racket.
It is a racket. If you look at the notes, even on this particular $2 million loan, they talk about how this is a guarantee of insurance. What does it say? Provided to facilitate the sale of goods and services to foreign buyers. Why in the world would we be giving, as taxpayers, $2 million to help a for-profit company sell overseas? Go sell overseas. That's great. We want exports here, but why would we be facilitating that financially? And this goes on all the time. So we're not picking on Mint Turbines. This goes on all the time. It is a who you know racket.
As is most government, as we've proven on here numerous times. Government is a jobs program, and it's a revolving door for ex-legislators and lobbyists to continue feeding off the teat of the pig. That's at this point what government is for. So Roberta is back on. Roberta.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yay. Yes.
I can hear you. Okay, so can you fill us in on what's going on the Shawnee thing before we finish up here?
Yeah. So a parent came public. I think it was, gosh, what day are we on?
Wednesday.
This is Wednesday. Came public on Monday. And she said that there was a student in her daughter's class who was pleasuring himself in class. The kids knew it. There was video of it. This kid has a history of watching porn in class on his phone. So this has been an issue for some time. And now that one parent has come out, several more have come out. Okay. And the girls who turned him in were all suspended. They were all suspended for videoing another student. Even though the other student was being wildly inappropriate, the student is still there. And all of the victims and all of the reporters have all been suspended. So that's where we're at.
Wow. Okay. Can I ask a couple qualifying questions?
Yes.
Was this at the Shawnee Middle School, high school? What
High school.
age?
This is the high school. Yes.
And do we know anything else about the class that this person was in, who was supervising or teaching this class? What was happening?
I don't know right off the top of my head. I think I know that there's a lot of people saying the student is on an IEP. IEP or not, I don't think that that's an appropriate behavior for the classroom. So when we talk about least restrictive environment, maybe, that should be a discussion. So, as a mom who's had 2 children on IEPs, I would never allow that behavior for my kid. And for the school, and then they say the parents are saying, well, we reached out to the school resource officer, and Shawnee Public School statement said we contacted Shawnee Police. Let me be very clear. Reaching out to the resource officer and contacting the police are 2 completely different things.
Correct.
And so the parents are saying the school resource officer looked into it. No crimes were committed. There's nothing to be done here. And so that kind of aligns with the superintendent's statement that came out earlier this morning, that they reported it to Shawnee Police, but I don't think that they in fact reported it to Shawnee Police. I think they had the resource officer look into it. There's
either the presence of a police report or there is not. And you're correct. The school resource officer, whether they're a licensed law enforcement officer or not, during their time at the school, they work for the superintendent. They work for the school district. They do not work.
Yes. There's more to the story. Hold on. There's more. Do you remember, Mary, when we talked about the volleyball coach from Lawton who hired the woman that everybody thought was a man, and he kind of got a slap on the wrist for that?
Yes, and he ended up molesting a student. Yes. She ended up.
So Shawnee Public Schools just do what?
No, go ahead. You froze. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Shawnee Public Schools. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Shawnee Public Schools just hired the assistant superintendent from Lawton Public School. Yes. So this is all happening under the assistant superintendent from Lawton Public Schools. This man was just hired, and here we are again, covering it all up.
And he is now, to be clear, he went from being assistant superintendent in Lawton to the superintendent of Shawnee Public Schools. Okay, well, we'll follow that.
Hold on, Gracie. John says they kicked all the protesters off the school grounds and they went across the street. News Channel 9 was there at noon also. So what you're saying, Roberta, is that the people who turned the boy in and they had videoed him on their phone in class were suspended.
Yes. So everybody was suspended. And the school is saying they're suspended for posting videos of another classmate.
Okay, well, so let me tie a couple of things together. Cell to cell, no bell. I mean, bell to bell, no cell. I knew it would come in there somewhere.
Right.
Bell to bell, no cell. So remember that a national group is getting patsies and useful idiots to pass restrictions in states that prevent students from keeping their cell phones in class. So I wonder if it's to protect school officials.
It's entirely possible, because at the same time that our legislature passed no cell phones in school, they've been absolutely resistant to cameras in classrooms that would allow parents to understand what their kids are learning and what the
Like
environment is like.
CCTV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. And that is the people who have been against. I mean, I think we all would like to limit distractions to students, especially our own children when they're at school. So I don't think there's a fight about should kids be on their cell phone when there's teaching going on, correct? But in schools that are increasingly unaccountable for lack of supervision, possibly abuse, all kinds of breaches of protocol, taking the phones away takes away the parent's ability to know. I've interviewed so many families who say, yeah, my kid videoed it or recorded. This is what was being said. This is what was being done in the classroom. And that's how I got involved. And, they're just blowing me off about this at the administrative level. So without that evidence, you're back to an adult said, a child said situation. And the child always loses.
Yeah, this is not good. And Gracie says an IEP is no excuse for doing any of that. I mean, it's very true. You're really, we've talked about this so many times on this program. You have to protect the other children as well. It can't just be the one. And Julia says, the only thing that's going to make it stop is for parents to pull their kid, out of public school. I don't know how to he sent a photo of the live to my Facebook Messenger. So let me see. I'm going to put up your, well, and that's the thing. That kid would be arrested if it happened outside of the classroom. So it's just, it's ridiculous.
Right. And we don't want to be unsympathetic to, there are certain diagnoses, developmental diagnoses, where when kids hit adolescence, that they don't have the same control over sexual urges.
Impulse control, yeah.
Right. Impulse control. So we don't want to be unsympathetic to that. But what we're talking about here is people reporting that a child's able to watch porn, on their phone, on their tablet, on their in class, and we can't supervise that or stop that.
Uh-oh, she's gone again. All right, well, let's do this because I'm sure you'll get with Roberta and write something about that. Because that's, I mean, we've talked about the fact that school computers show kids porn all the time. So I'm just checking my messages to make sure Roberta hasn't.
Sure.
Anyway, we'll let you and expect you to actually write something up about that because that's something that parents need to know about. But let's get back to Chris Vandenhende. You wrote an article this morning, and I think we need to talk a little bit about that for this reason. This Senate Education Committee is going to be voting on whether or not this person will be appointed tomorrow.
Confirmed. Yes.
Confirmed.
Yes. They will be discussing his possible confirmation and potentially voting to confirm him to the State Board of Education.
Okay. So we need to get some information out about Mr. Vandenhende before that time. So everybody kind of saw what I had written about him, and we talked about the tax credits and that thing. What do you have for us today?
Well, here's what I want to talk about today. I want to go back a little bit further than when the members were taken away from the State Board of Education. Strip those 3 members. I want to go back to December. And if you go back to December, some really strange things were going on with our governor. Our governor signed an MOU with the Embassy of Denmark, and it was all about renewable energy, right?
Yep.
And particularly aerospace and defense projects and renewable energy, which is really unexpected for the supposedly conservative Republican governor of one of the highest oil and gas producing states in the country. So it really went against the economic interests of Oklahomans, and no one could really process it. So he also did an MOU on the same day with a company, a Danish company that does nothing but build, not nothing, but their main crux is to build renewable energy grids. They build solar and wind farms. Okay. There's been quite the battle going on in Oklahoma about the expansion of wind turbines. People are pushing back. There's things about land capture in there. There are lots of different groups, grassroots groups, who are not happy about this and have been very open about it. And when Governor Stitt in December went out and posted and was doing the yay rah rah about a MOU with Denmark for reliable renewable energy, the comments coming back were pretty brutal. People were saying, stop it with the climate scam. What are you doing? They just couldn't put the pieces together.
Well, and I even wrote an article for the Federalist about it, which generated a number. I mean, people at the national level don't like it either.
Right. And it was just a huge head scratcher. And Ryan Walters came out against this. And a lot of people were saying, well, Ryan Walters is the superintendent of education. Isn't that kind of out of his lane? And I'll be honest, I was one of those people at the time saying, I wonder if that's the topic, the battle I would have picked if I were the state superintendent. But just like with everything, if you hold on long enough and keep watching and following, things start to fall in place. Well, Governor Stitt is deeply involved with the National Governors Association, the NGA. And you've been talking at length about how the National Governors Association affects all kinds of policies. These are these national NGOs. I've written about some myself. This is a particularly powerful one that grabs our elected officials in all of these states, fills their heads full of globalist policy making, and then ships them back to our state. And they tend to ignore their constituents after that. Energy is a big deal at the NGA, the National Governors Association. So back just after Stitt was inaugurated the first time, the NGA had a Global Energy Solutions Summit. Okay. And that summit was in collaboration between the NGA and who else but the Embassy of Denmark and the Embassy of Canada and the Embassy of Australia. So if you're going, how did Governor Stitt find Denmark to pony up on green energy things? It was at the NGA. And they have a very specific set of policy goals for energy within the states, and they are encouraging these kind of MOUs. So there's sort of our breadcrumbs about how we got with Denmark. And if you remember in 2024, there were lots of attacks on the State Board of Education for their processes. There was some stuff about funding. People were trying to get into their executive sessions, legislators were, but Stitt was not involved in that up until December. If Walters was being attacked, the only way Stitt was involved is he's probably being attacked on the same side by the same people on the opposite side.
Oh, those were the days.
Those were the days. They were, the Lone Ranger and Tonto until the Lone Ranger pushed Tonto off his horse. So in December, that really changed. And then we saw right at the beginning of 2025, the attacks were now not on policy or process. It was actual attacks on the board. Upend the board, change the board, use legislation to strip the state superintendent of any power over the agenda. So there was this huge effort to sort of silence Walters. And at the time, Stitt was saying it was political drama, right? One of the board members, Kendra Wesson, who was removed, said that instead it was more about immigration. So it was those immigration policies and public statements that Walters was making. Although I have to tell you, I was in the State Board of Education meeting when that vote to collect immigration status of students, and particularly country of origin and language, was completely mischaracterized by the media. The Oklahoma City public schools.
Well, that's shocking.
Oh, I know. The legacy media missed everything pertinent about that. The superintendent in Oklahoma City stood up and talked about how she's struggling and how they'd identified 71 different languages that students in just Oklahoma City were speaking during this onslaught of open borders for 4 years. And how do we plan for this? How do we have services for this? Well, we need to know what language they speak as a starter. So that was all misconstrued. So now we have them clashing about green energy. We have them clashing about immigration, and we have a new set of board members. So that's where things really sort of start to tie together. If you look at Vandenhende's businesses, he's in the jet engine and jet fuel systems businesses. And you look at the MOU, the particular MOU with Denmark, there are these really specific words used. SAF and ESAF, okay? Biogas, pyrolysis and electrolysis. These are words and processes in the production of sustainable energy, so-called carbon-free energy, because we've got to save the planet despite the shaky science around all of that. Stitt has really bought into it by using those terms. And if we really, really look at those terms, we start to see that pyrolysis, and you can see it in the article, pyrolysis involves using creating aviation fuel, sustainable bio-aviation fuel. Biogas is sort of the same thing. Instead of using all of the natural gas in Oklahoma, we're going to use these processes to make organic natural gas by breaking down organic matter. So it's working against our economy, and it's bought into this. And lots of it leads to making new jet fuels that we can call low carbon alternatives. Well, Vandenhende's company, particularly Southwest Fuel Systems, is very much coupled with Honeywell. They work on Honeywell equipment, they all of that kind of thing. Honeywell is a huge producer of those systems and those fuels. Well, Honeywell is big in the sustainable aviation fuel. So that's the SAF you'll hear. So SAF is sustainable aviation fuel. It's throughout that MOU. And then ESAF is sustainable aviation fuel that was produced using only sustainable energy. The number one source of that would be wind power, right? They don't want to use fossil fuels for anything, including creating fuel. And that is, they're going to need a lot of sustainable energy to meet these green goals for things like aviation fuel in Oklahoma, even though nobody in Oklahoma wants it and they're fighting against it. So that's where you see, at the same time we're partnering with Denmark, we're signing an MOU with this Danish company that does nothing but build wind farms and solar farms. So Oklahoma apparently will be expanding its wind capacity, even if it doesn't want to, under Stitt's plans that are coming from the National Governors Association. And Jenny shakes her head.
Well, I mean, it's, and let's not forget, for those who are watching, the National Governors Association is so pernicious that basically what they try to do is get all the governors on the same global agenda. And Mary Fallon, if you remember the conversations that we've been having over this workforce training garbage that they're trying to jam down our throat, along with this national database, longitudinal database, in order to track kids from birth to throughout their lives, essentially.
Correct.
If you look at that and you look at what I had written about the timeline for all of that data capture, you'll notice that the biggest problem that we had was our own governor, Mary Fallon, who was the head of the National Governors Association back in that time. And she's the one who brought that workforce stuff all into Oklahoma before even Jebby, our friend Jebby Bush, did. So, you know, it's a perniciously liberty-sucking organization. And if you ask me, we've got to find some brave legislators who are going to write some legislation that say that any elected official may not attend a national conference or be, I mean, because it's like they come back with this garbage and try to get, all of the states doing the same thing all the time. It's just, it's bad.
Correct. And we talked the other day about the OEQA, the Oklahoma Education Quality, and how that's where that huge database that's being pushed by Jeb Bush and the National Governors Association, how that's the agency where they're paying $350,000 in dues for our elected officials to go to these kind of conferences and the SREB and the National Governors Association and learn how to work against the will of the people. It is so counterproductive.
Using our tax dollars, as Julia pointed out in our morning broadcast.
Correct. And now that we see all of this happening, and Vandenhende lands on the board at sort of this critical moment when Governor Stitt clearly wants to silence Ryan Walters with his opinions about green energy, you start to be suspicious about why he's there. Is he there to serve education, or is he there to silence the most prominent voice and to keep Ryan Walters as state superintendent in his lane on behalf of Stitt? So Vandenhende's very first action when he was first seated and sworn into the board prior to confirmation was to immediately make a motion that they don't talk about immigration anymore at the State Board of Education.
Right.
And that started a conversation about who has control of the agenda at the State Board of Education meetings. And our state constitution and our state law in Title 70 is very clear that whoever is our only elected person on the State Board of Education, representative as state superintendent, is the executive of that body. That person runs the State Department of Education and they run the Board of Education. So that assumed control of the agenda has always been in place. Now we have this conversation, which was started by Vandenhende, about what you can and can't talk to. And that turned into, as you know, 2 very subversive legislative attempts to strip bills and stuff language in that will pull the agenda power away from the elected official on the board. Are we connecting the dotted line?
Yeah, well, and then too, there's this that I thought I would just share as well. So this is from the Oklahoma Education Board. So this is Chris Vandenhende's bio information from there. And you'll notice that he says Vandenhende served 4 years on the Board of Regents.
He did.
For the regional university system of Oklahoma, overseeing 6 universities that collectively graduate about 60% of the state's teachers. His leadership helped guide policies impacting faculty, students, and the financial sustainability of Oklahoma's largest higher education system.
Yes, that's where he was serving from 2021 up until he was seated on the State Board of Education. He does not have any background in education, as we've said before. There are uses for people on the Board of Education with, financial knowledge, those kind of things. I understand that. But these connections to the most contentious issue between the governor and the state superintendent that he is now closely related to when you look at that MOU. I mean, he is the entrepreneur in our state who understands aviation fuel systems. And he works hand in hand with Honeywell, who is in the business of these sustainable aviation fuels. I think the senators, in their thoughts, have some questions to ask. What have the discussions been? Are there plans for somehow his companies or some business endeavor to be involved in that? We don't know.
Well, but what we do know is that Governor Stitt has previously appointed him to other things. So again, this is another one of those revolving door. I go from this board to this board to this board. I go from legislator to lobbyist. I go from lobbyist to head of this commission. It doesn't allow the people, the regular, those of us that are sitting right here and watching today, it doesn't allow us to get our foot in the door anywhere because, it's the constant revolving door. So I wanted to transition over to Roberta. What are we seeing right now on the screen?
This is a group in Oklahoma, formerly known as Defensive Democracy. They've rebranded themselves, and now they're called the Woke Mob. And so, yeah, that'd be her.
Oops, hold on. Sorry.
Defensive Democracy is a national organization, the same as Moms for Liberty. Defensive Democracy was created nationally to go after Moms for Liberty. Their only mission in life was to go after Moms for Liberty. And so we are fortunate enough to have a group here in Oklahoma. My days wouldn't be quite as, they wouldn't be quite as full if we didn't have them. And I don't know what happened with the guys here. I don't know if they had a falling out with National. I don't know what the deal was, but they've rebranded themselves the Woke Mob. And
they
so
were previously the
Defensive Democracy, which
Democracy.
is a national democratic organization. Yes. And these are the same group of people that you see outside of the state board meetings every month. These are the ones that are yelling and cussing. These are the ones that are casting spells on people. These are the ugly face of it that you see every month after month after month. And so they thought they were doing something here, which is funny. Ryan Walters was really scolding this board member, Chris, the board member, and he was scolding him because Chris had lied to the media about the social studies standards. And Chris had said something to the lines of, he didn't know what were in the social studies standards. And so when the media started calling him after he voted for them, all of a sudden he's got reservations about voting. And he kind of wanted a do-over. And so Ryan Walters was scolding him. And Chris, in the video, he says, nobody's lying. And if you continue to say that we were lying, then we're going to talk about it some more. But he says, being inaccurate.
Well, here, let's play the video. Let's play the video real fast.
Yes.
I'm just saying, you brought it up. We've said our piece. I don't know. Again, that we lied, we'll talk some more, because I don't think anybody lied. There may have been some comments that weren't 100% accurate, but I wouldn't say that's new to the Department of Education. So let's just calm down and move on.
I'm pretty calm. So you just said that there were inaccurate statements made, and I agree with that. That was what my position was, and I appreciate you acknowledging board members made inaccurate statements.
Inaccurate and lying are two different things, and one involves character and another doesn't. So I don't appreciate it.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you brought it.
I guess I'm of the camp that unless an inaccuracy was, oops, I misunderstood, sorry about that, or I misspelled your name. If you're going to be inaccurate about something like these social studies standards, but that you're being inaccurate.
Wow. And let me point something out. If you're going to the media, you better be accurate. If you're talking to the media, you better know what you're talking about, or you shouldn't be talking to them. But if you look over here on the side, so the woke mob, they're proud. I mean, they're proud of Chris for admitting that he lied, to our news media. That is only something a Democrat would be proud of, by the way. And so he's so proud of it. This group, the woke mob, they're so proud of him. And then you see here, Nancy Davis, she's like, that's my dad. That's my dad. I'm so proud of him. And then everybody just starts cheering her on. There's comment after comment after comment.
So
and they're like,
comment right here, and here are the.
And they're like, no, that's our dad now. That's our dad. We're so proud of him.
Your dad, we appreciate him. He is awesome. I met him at some trade shows. We appreciate your dad and the progress he's trying to make. Ryan better back off our dad. Right now, he's everyone's dad.
Yeah.
Tell your dad we appreciate him. He needs to remove Walters.
Everybody's dad's a liar. So that's
So hold on, there's another one down here that I want to get at, and there's quite a give him my most sincere thanks as a teacher. Okay, I don't see it. Where was the other comment? And I like this one. Ryan Walters is a little bee who wants to be Trump's minion. He's the liar and also a thief, giving thousands. So this is kind of the flavor, right, of this defense. Well, it's not defensive, just democracy. It's the woke mob. Sorry,
the woke mob. Yeah, they didn't do him any justice. So it was Goody. What was it? Goody Hawn.
Here it is, right here. Goldie Hawn.
Goldie.
Who is this man? I'd like to buy him a drink. His name is Chris Vandenhende. That's my daddy. He's a good man. Please tell him thank you. Nancy Davis, Chris Vandenhende, mine and Michelle's daddy, as she said, such a good man. He'd take a large Diet Coke, light ice.
I think what you also have to understand about this group, if you've been sitting in the State Board of Education meetings where now they had to come up with all kinds of systems to give fair access during the public comment time, the people from Defense of Democracy, who are now the woke mob, every time they go up to speak, their main issue is LGBT rights and LGBT kids. And they consistently apply those labels that describe adult sexuality to children. They did not want to remove books that was fascist, that were inappropriate for children. So that's the crux of this organization.
Well, and they're also the ones that go up there, they cuss, they call names. I don't know any other public official that just sits there and lets people talk to them the way that Ryan Walters is, kind of forced to let public comment sit there and talk to him. And these guys, I mean, they don't have any qualms about bringing in. 1 month they brought in kids that should have been in school.
Yes.
I mean, they brought in kids that should have been in school. And these kids, the one child, he was shaking so bad I thought he was going to pass out.
Oh, God.
His mother became so dysregulated in her comments, and things got really strange. She actually had to be escorted out. The child was very upset. Some staff from the State Department of Ed came in to comfort and take care of the child.
Mary, I'm talking about the one with the two boys from the Christian school.
Oh, yes.
That spoke. And the boy, they were high schoolers, and the boy was shaking so bad. I was waiting on his knees to lock and him just to fall over.
Yes. So they were bringing kids to speak. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Kids that should have been in school on a school day, and I mean, they were calling Ryan Walters names and these guys are proud of it. They've reposted those videos over and over and over again. And yeah, they even yell at the monitor in the hallway. We can hear them from inside the boardroom. And so these people are not, you can't talk any reason into them. I mean, you can't. I mean, Ryan Walters could cure cancer and these people would be mad that he put, researchers out of business.
Let's go back and answer Julia's question. So Chris Vandenhende's kids are in this group.
We don't know. We know that they were on TikTok and they commented, and the amount of love that they got, I imagine they immediately followed the group. I do know that the one daughter, the Life of Shell, she hashtag voting for Harris in 2024. So we know that she voted for Harris in 2024. So we don't know. But I know that they definitely got welcomed in with open arms.
Yes.
Well, and we do need to make that point. So he has, but these are adult children. These aren't small people. These are adult one. I think both of them have different names than the father, indicating maybe that they're married or something. But I guess the point of the matter is that this board member who has been appointed by a Republican governor who has appointed these people because he woke up one day and decided to fire 3 people. I mean, in a day. So all of this sounds dysregulated to me. I mean, I don't know, but if this board member, Chris Vandenhende, who has the possibility of, under Governor Stitt's MOU with Denmark, to possibly provide some service to the state, or using some influence with the state to get a job, and then also has children who are commenting on non-Republican posts. I mean, there are just a lot of red flags popping up here. Is that kind of the bottom line with this?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I feel. I feel like, when you've been on a board and you just Kendra talked to us about this. Remember, she talked to us about how when the governor took her off the school board, he offered her another board. Yes. So what are we seeing with this school board member? He was on the Russo board for 5 years. And then now he's been given the opportunity to be on the school board. And if he's a good little boy, then maybe the next board that he gets put on, maybe that'll be a paid board. If he's good, right?
Or a commerce board, right?
Correct.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Commerce board.
So if he does what he's told and follows through with what the governor wants, then he'll be rewarded. Kendra told us that's how it works. She told us that's how they do it. And I wouldn't assume that it would be any different with this board member.
No, I wouldn't either, except that given his profession, I don't think he's worried about state salary money.
No.
And I think it has a lot more to do. For a long time, Ryan Walters has been saying this is about green energy, and we didn't get it. I think we're starting to get it. We're starting to get why these things fall together and what the motivations are for people to do the governor's bidding, which has changed so much from his first term. And I think that's what's so bewildering for voters, constituents, journalists alike.
Well, it's interesting because I go back to George W. Bush's, he had 2 terms. And when you go back and you look at his 2 terms, his first term, I mean, I seem to remember, and I don't have this is just kind of me thinking about it. I seem to remember his first term was considerably more conservative than his second term. For God's sakes, we got the Patriot Act out of his second term. We got free prescription drugs out of his second term. I mean, so it seems, you could kind of, I guess, put those 2 together and wonder and posit, does this happen? I mean, is there kind of a fall off? I don't know. As you become a lame duck, do you just go, oh, heck with it, I'll just do whatever sounds good today? I mean,
correct.
I don't know.
Right. If you're a lame duck, and now when you're talking about having spent 6 years going to the National Governors Association conferences, meetings, Zooms, he's now actually the vice chair. Our governor is the vice chair to the chair, who is a very progressive Democrat governor from Colorado. And they seem to be aligning in education policy. Now we see, if you look at Illinois, Governor Pritzker is playing the exact same game. He actually, in December, about the same time, he announced an agreement with someone called the Avena Clean Hydrogen Company. And they're building an $820 million sustainable aviation fuel, that SAF project. Okay. So that's happening right over the line. This is happening in all these states. This is not Stitt's grand, unique idea. Pritzker also just signed an MOU with the UK, as though he is a separate country, which focuses on energy, technology, life science sectors, and also, quote, reinforces diversity by highlighting a joint commitment to bolstering equitable economic opportunities and innovation among historically marginalized groups, including women, communities of color, and the LGBT plus community. So that's his MOU with the foreign country. So
Oh
the
my
NGA
goodness.
is really training them to
Yeah.
act like states, to act like their own countries with kings over them. You
Yeah.
take the policy we give you back and you ignore those you should be serving.
Yeah.
It's a national
Yeah.
trend.
Yeah. And John says it's all tied together through Agenda 21, 20, 2030, and all the other world UN agendas. They want total control of the United States. And I, you know, having researched that myself, I believe that 100%. And I think what happens is he just has useful idiots that follow right along for one reason or the other. You know, maybe they're making money off of it somewhere. You know, maybe it just brings them power, whatever the reason is. Well, and our friend Amber says, I've been saying it for a few years. Governor Stitt is aligning more with the ways of Oregon, California. The way industry is being brought in is just the wrong way. And that's the purpose of the NGA. Really,
Yes.
I do believe it is the purpose. Just like we talked about when we found out that all of this workforce stuff came from, you know, Jeb Bush. That literally when he came here in November, you know, he works with the legislators to say, hey, you got to do this workforce stuff. It's a 14-step program, or I guess it's 7. It's a 7-step program. You need to get these laws implemented so we can all get on the same page. Well, the beauty of the United States, according to the founders, was that we weren't supposed to be all on the same page.
Correct.
So we're 50 states that
have very different
one
resources.
Of our founders has called what was it? A crucible of invention. So I think that was Thomas Jefferson who called it a crucible, the states of crucibles of invention, because they were supposed to be individual, 50 of them. Well, not at that time of Thomas Jefferson, obviously, but you know, a number of them, and they were all supposed to be different. So what we're doing right now is definitely the path of globalism. And I think we can see it in just about everything. So ladies, we're about coming up on an hour. How do you want to close this out? So, and what do people need to do?
Well, I think if something smells rotten in Denmark to you about this nomination, that contacting your state senator, because tomorrow they will be discussing and potentially voting on this person's confirmation. As I said, this isn't a dark black line. This is a dotted line, but there are some questions that need to be asked. And I would encourage our state senators to ask about his attachments to any of these things that we've discussed before doing that. And some of the things that Roberta brought up as well about ideology. Do those ideologies, are they shared by the constituents of your district if you're voting on this, state senator?
Yeah, and then I just want to remind people, when you're talking to your senators, we got 2 more. There's 2 more board members that still have to be confirmed. Tenney, I don't think he's got anybody to carry his confirmation. So Senator Standridge said she would not carry his confirmation, and the Senate Pro Tem said that he would not carry the confirmation. So I don't know that he's going to get I don't know that anybody's going to carry that. And then we have Ryan Deathridge, the one who doesn't read anything he votes on.
I was going to say the one who doesn't sound like he can read.
Well, yeah, but he's not a speed reader. We know that. And so when he comes up for confirmation, I just want somebody to ask him if he's yet to read the social studies standards, because in 2 months' time, he still had not read the social studies standards. So
yes, these are not small appointments. It takes a lot of work to be on the State Board of Education. There's a lot of commitment to this. It is a volunteer position. So it takes a special person to take the K through 12 students of Oklahoma in their hands for decision making.
Look who we have.
Hey, Kendra, we were just talking about you.
I'm gathering she's home, or maybe she's doing this from, you know, I don't know. So I definitely, and Gracie makes a really good point. I want to throw this in. Globalism will continue to be pushed. And she says, we the people must push back just as hard. And I'm going to say, unless we push back at all, because the more of us who she's in NYC. Welcome back. But yes, we absolutely have to do something to make this stop. It's not going to be something that's going to stop on its own. The train is already on that track. We literally are going to have to do something, put something in its way to stop it. And the way to do it right now is to contact your senator and say, no. There are too many red flags on Chris Vandenhende. He's already been on another board where, there are some questions about his, political background. There are some questions about what he's doing and the overlap, what he does for a business, and the overlap with this Danish MOU that Governor Stitt signed to kind of wrap it up and put a bow on it. So I think these are the things that we need to, and then, Dana wants us to make sure that we remind everybody to contact your senator at the same time that you're pushing back against, this appointment of Chris Vandenhende, and say, don't let 224 come back up. We need to stop this. They've already gotten, I think, pretty much all of this Jeb Bush plan. Brian Hill, Representative Brian Hill, who is on this governor's workforce committee.
Well, Brian Hill's sick and tired. He's tired.
He's tired of us not going along with the global agenda. He's just sick and tired of it. And he's pretty much gotten everything through. So we have, in order to stop this, we've got to stop SB 224. So contact your senator immediately, right after seeing this video. We've shown you what you need to tell them. If you need to replay it, just replay it and go back through it. But there are a couple of points. One,
well, also, Jenny, this is the education committee. So if we can kill this confirmation in committee, which the education committee is chaired by Adam Pugh, our favorite senator, if we can kill it in education committee, it's a lot less work than having to kill it in the entire Senate. So while you're calling your senator, call Adam Pugh too. He'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely, he would. All right, ladies, we're going to jump off of here then for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And if you please share this video, we would very much appreciate it. Get it out there on your socials and ask people to comment. And I think that's it. Did we cover everything?
I believe so.
That's it.
All right. Okay, great. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Mary, and thank you for Roberta for, helping us out and putting all these pieces together. And don't forget, everybody, we'll be back with you live 9 a.m. on Friday morning with Twyla Braze, who is an expert on Real ID. We need everybody watching. Please share, and we'll see you again at 9 a.m. on Friday. Thanks so much for being with us. Bye-bye.